Hola preciosis! Well, I first saw this tag in Lovelace's channel. This is a very fun tag and I think that it's a very important one. The only rule is that you can only answer with books written by women. Each question is inspired by a woman that had impact through history. Question number 1 is inspired by Rosa Park and it is a book about a female who doesn't do as she's told. For that I have The Woman in the Window and more specifically talking about Anna Fox. If you have been losing your mind during this quarantine, Anna Fox is the queen of lockdowns. She has been in lockdown for 10 months. She hasn't left her house for 10 months and that is because she has agoraphobia. She cannot go out without having a panic attack. It is only natural that she started to develop some hobbies, normal hobbies like playing chess online, French classes online, spying on your neighbors, alcoholism, just the fun stuff. Because of one of these hobbies, which is spying on her neighbors, she one day sees something that she wasn't supposed to see. I wonder what that is. And because she is an alcoholic and an agoraphobic, everybody sees her as that crazy lady and nobody wants to believe what she says she saw. But she is determined to make people listen to her even while she's in lockdown. She goes to extremes. Almost the Pope was telling her to shut up and she wouldn't. Question number 2 is inspired in Ada Lovelace and this is a book with a female character that is intelligent. And I had several answers for this one, but the one that I stuck with was Sadie. She is a girl that practically had to act the mom part with her sister Maddie since she was a teen. And one day Maddie is murdered and Sadie knows who did this and she has a plan, not a flawless plan, but indeed a plan to make the person that made Maddie pay for what he did. And even though she has a stutter, she doesn't have a lot of money and she's alone and she travels miles from person to person looking for some hints to find this person that she wants to murder. And she got out of some very dangerous situations just using her mind. Question number 3 is inspired by Queen Elizabeth I and right now I am listening to her biography. And the question is a book about a woman in a position of power. And I could cheat because I am currently listening to the Queen Elizabeth I biography. I'm still not done with it, but I can tell you so far what I've learned. She came to power when she was only 25 years old. At that time that was old, but she didn't really have an education on how to be a queen. And people were plotting for her to marry because they didn't like having a queen. And she knew that as soon as she got married, she would stop becoming the queen and she would become the king's wife, even though she is the one with the birthright. I don't know if this position of power has to be like political, but for example, another answer that I can think of is Daisy Jones and the Six. Daisy Jones at that time was the most famous singer, and this aspires a lot of power because girls from all ages, women, saw Daisy Jones as a role model and everything that she did or say affected in some way every woman around her. Question number 4 is inspired by Virginia Woolf and this is a book with beautiful writing. And I could think of no other than Where the Crawdads Sing. The writing is so beautiful that you can see the marsh around you and you can see perfectly the colors that Kaya is describing. So this book is about Kaya and she is abandoned when she's only 7 years old and she has to live by herself in the marsh. She has to learn how to feed herself, how to get clothes, etc. And at the same time we're following Kaya when she is 20-something and the popular guy from town is murdered and she is the principal suspect because it is believed that they had an affair. And did I mention that this book has beautiful writing? Beautiful, beautiful writing. Question number 5 is inspired by Joan of Arc, and this is a book about a female warrior. I realize that I don't normally read about warriors because I don't normally read fantasy, but I remember the first fantasy series that I read was about 3 people. It was about Bastion, Connor, but mainly it was about Tressa, and she was a female and she got out of situations on her own. At first she was with her other 2 friends, but then she starts to mend on her own, and in many cases she has to pick up a sword and fight for her life. The Dragonland series came into my life through BookBuff. The first 3 books were free, and I decided that I liked the series enough to finish all 5 of them. If you are getting into fantasy, I recommend this series because it is a short one and it is very easy to get through it. Question number 6 is inspired in Mae Jemison, and this is a book set in space. I have the perfect answer of the 2 most famous duo for books set in space, and that's by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman, and this is their new series. The first book being Aurora Rising. This is a series about a bunch of misfits that form a squad, and the first mission that they get is a very fishy one, and yeah, you have to find out what happens after that. Question number 7 is inspired by Rosalind Franklin, and this is an underappreciated book. And every time I think about an underrated book, the first one that comes into my mind is The Accident. This was in my top favorite books of 2019, and I can't believe how little people have read it. This book was perfect for me because it has the character that you love to hate, and I love to hate my characters. And this book is about a woman that has the perfect life. She has a daughter, she has the perfect job, and she has a boyfriend that is very successful, and she herself is very successful. Enter Eve. She is an evil woman that is going to turn everyone's world around. Question number 8 is inspired in Marsha Johnson, and this is a book about LGBT plus characters. And the first book that came into mind was A Little Life, but I hated this book. It was in my worst books of 2019. And another book that I read with these characters and that I enjoyed is my first graphic novel ever. This is The Prince and the Dressmaker. We follow a dressmaker that her fantasy in life is to become appreciated because of her work, and the prince has a secret. He likes to wear beautiful dresses. So one makes beautiful dresses, one wants to make beautiful dresses, one wants to be famous, the other one is famous. The perfect combination. Question number 1 is inspired in Amelia Earhart, and this is an award-winning book that deserves a hype. The first one that came into mind is Where the Crawdads Sing, but I already used this one for the one with beautiful writing, and honestly there wasn't another book that could fit better in that category. But another award-winning book that totally deserves the hype is Little Fires Everywhere. This was in Reese Witherspoon's book club. It won the Goodreads Choice Award in 2017, and it is being adapted in a Hulu series. So this book is about 2 families. The Richardsons are formed by 4 kids, and the parents and the Warrens are formed by Pearl and Mia. They are very different. The Richardsons have always lived in Shaker Heights, and they have always been the perfect family, doing everything that they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do it. And the Warrens are led by Mia. She's a photographer and she lives paycheck to paycheck, and she defies everything and she questions everything. Question number 10 is a freebie, and you can say a woman that inspires you. Apart from literature, another passion of mine is ecology. In my first videos, I gave ecologic tips at the end of them. And I am an eco-freak, so I admire Greta Thunberg, like she is my hero. And a book that inspires me is Tempus Umbras. The one that I'm holding right now is the 2nd volume. I have the 1st volume at home. This is a middle grade fantasy series in which we follow the Lovelace family. They live in a country separated half of the country forbids magic and half of the country embraces magic. This is written in Spanish. I hope it gets translated to English, but the thing is that I know the author. She personally signed this copy for me, and I knew the author from a while back, and while I was in a reading slump that took years, I found out that she had published a book, and that was wild to me, and I wanted to know everything about it, and I asked her everything about it. And ever since I read her first book, I have never been in a reading slump. That was in 2017. So yeah, thanks to her, I got out of a reading slump and I started writing my own books. So thank you, Hellis. So that's it for today's videos. If you made it all the way to this point, please comment this phrase below. I admire, and put the woman that you admire the most. It can be your mom, it can be your sister, it can be a president, it can be a fictional character, anyone. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe and hit the notification button if you haven't done so, and I'll see you next Saturday. Bye!